Right, everyone. Right, this is part 3. This is a highly experimental camera rig I'm working on, so bear with me. It's kind of strapped to my face so I can point to things and explain it to you. And this is part 3 of the iron soil stack part, final part, just showing you what we've done. And to kind of give an overview, because I never really stop and explain it, I'll take these bricks out of the way. This is, well, I'm getting ready to repair all this brickwork here that's been taken out. I've already done a spot there. I'm going to put these all back, so that way it's a bit easier when I come to plaster the wall. I'll show you what you've done now. First of all, I had to go away and kind of, once I took all the floors up, I had to look at the problem and kind of go away and first think about how I wanted to do it. And, you know, do your homework, especially if you're doing something like this that you've not done before. It's good to not just jump in, start cutting stuff, and, you know, next thing you know, you've got an open soil pipe and no way to fix it. And it's always good to have a plan in place before you do anything, especially in this industry, because this industry punishes mistakes. Now, there's a lot of dust on everything because I'll be doing some cutting work with a grinder in here, getting this all smooth so I can cement and brick in. But this is the existing boss here and the existing branch here. This is all LCC stuff. And then coming up was a branch with a male end and the pipe coming out for the loo, which is a bit lower than what this is now. And so this will be the first video you're watching. Basically, how did we get from that to this? Now, the other two videos showing me doing it, and this video will be explaining how I did it. And so, first of all, I took a measure up, worked out what I needed, worked out that this part was in fact male, that when I cut this fitting off, I would have enough pipe to put this adapter onto. And also I got different adapters, because when you're getting the bits, you can't guarantee, when it's on something like this, a bit more difficult, that everything's going to fit. So I got myself 2 different types of adapter. I got a straight couple type, which is what we ended up using, and I also got a type that's reputed to be iron to 4-inch waste pipe conversion. It said so on the manufacturer's description. However, this was a tighter fit on both pipes. And so that's the kind of thing that you've got to consider. You've got to get all your bits ready. You've got to take measurements and check that everything will fit as far as possible before you do it. And you've got to plan for redundancies. Like you got to say to yourself, what will I do if it won't fit? And that sort of thing. So, and I got that, and I got a female-ended branch, both ends female. That was actually tricky to get hold of, and I'm not sure why, because you'd think it'd be a standard fitting, but I went around all the plumbers merchants, couldn't be found, couldn't be had, no way, no how. And so, in the end, I was about to give up and have a male-ended branch like what was there, but in plastic, and then I'd have a collar. But I didn't want to do it that way, because the more fittings you have in this equation, the more weak points there are for leakage. You want to use the least amount of fittings possible. It's good practice. So that's why, thank God, in the end I found a female-ended branch. Of all places, Tool Station. They had it in stock. Had it the very next day. So, lesson learned. If you go to the DIY home gamer type store, you'll get it first. And you'll get what you need possibly. You know, if you're not too much of a snob. Now, you'll note this foam. If you've been looking at any of the other videos, you'll know why some of this is here. So after I got my fittings ready and I knew roughly what I wanted to do, I had to consider the fact that this iron pipe doesn't seem to be clipped. They seem to have built the wall around it. As you see, this is a void. This is the wall was put in, and then, well, the pipe and the wall were put in at roughly the same time, and so I couldn't count on there being much support. Now, obviously it's got vertical support and it's fine when it's sitting in the wall, but if you cut the middle section out, what I couldn't count on was it dropping through the roof or possibly doing more damage. And so what we did was we drilled holes all the way up two here, two up there, you can see. And we shot a load of expanding foam into this empty cavity, and we confirmed it was empty. We drilled the holes, looked in there, it was all empty space. And the thinking behind that is that the foam would expand and grip it. And that was the best we could do. We also did some other work upstairs in the next floor to see if we could do it there, but it was really hard to get to. It's all bespoke panels, wood panels on the next floor on a sloping roof, and we just thought it was more hassle than it was worth. And we also came up with this clip because I couldn't find any ironwork pipe clips, and I thought if it's going to get boarded up anyway and plastered over, you're not going to see it. So I know it's not the best material to use wood, but needs must not use some very long screws to get through these pieces and into the wall. But this works quite well, it's very rigid even now, and I've used gripper and chemical fixing and basically belt and braces, because this pipe weighs quite a bit. Even the pieces that I cut out, they were fairly small, and you notice when you pick them up how heavy they are. And another thing I've noticed on this exercise is that you learn to appreciate and sort of, I've developed a respect for the people that put this in, because it is tough stuff to take out, and it makes you imagine how these people put them in without any kind of power tools or anything like that. The mind boggles. And so, going on, once we had the pipe supported the best we could and we were happy with it, I mean, you're never really happy with it, but you go when you've done all that you can. And we proceeded to cut here and here. And we did the first cut up here, and we did it slightly lower than what we would have needed, because the way we ended up using it was we used a 9-inch grinder, and that wouldn't have gone all the way in. And so what we did two cuts with the 9-inch, cut the front of it out, and then we were able to get the head of the 4-inch grinder inside the iron pipe and cut it that way. And we did have a pinched blade, and you'll see that if you watch part 2. And we had some difficulties with it pinching. We stuck the Dremel in there, and the weight of the pipe as it's coming down just nicked the blade, so that's something you'll have to be careful of. And then same again, once we got to the branch, we cut it up, and we tried to cut it up into small manageable pieces for carrying down. You don't want to cut a large piece of pipe out, A, because it's easier to move, but B, also because this is the ceiling of the room below, and if you just cut the piece of pipe out neat, it's going to fall, it's going to bash into this, it's going to bash on the ceiling work, and it's not a good idea. You want to cut it into nice small segments when you're working with this stuff, especially if you're doing it at height on a ladder up the side of a building. You want to break it up. If you're on the side of the building, you'd just be using a sledgehammer to take it off, just bash it into lumps and take it away. But that's the rule when you're working with LCC, is to try and get it into smaller pieces. And once we cut that out, and we found that if you could cut most of the way around, tapping it with a hammer would produce a clean break as well. Although it had a surprising amount of spring in it. It was not as brittle as I expected. And then this was difficult to get in because of all the different tolerances. Trying to slip this collar on. This is why it's all mucky and covered in silicone, look. It's because we had to slide this down and slide this up to sort it out. And which is good in a way, because it's a nice tight fit, and it means that this pipe is now resting on the plastic pipe, which is now resting, it's all meshing together. It's not one bit of pipe comes to here and there's a gap in here. If you imagine the pipe inside, there's no gap, it's directly on it, so to speak. So it's nice and strong and it shouldn't move, and that's what you want, really. And then I also clipped in the new soil, and the reason why I did that is because I don't want it, say if it's not quite right and it's a little bit out of line, if this drops any over the years, it might zigzag and push left and right, especially with all this extra room it's got in here. Now I will fill this up as well, either with foam or with cement or something to try and support it, and basically do the best I can, because you got to, basically what you want is the pipework as rigid and supported as possible, and hopefully it'll be all good in 50 or so years time, if somebody else needs to use this bathroom or do some work here. I'll have an easier time cutting this out, and I'll just snip the rubber, peel it back, and hopefully pop the pipe out. But anyway, that's a brief and rambling explanation of what I did, and I hope it makes it a bit more clear in the videos, because in the videos you just see us cutting away and doing stuff and joking and swearing, and there's not really any clear explanation of what's going on. So to start with, you've got to plan it, you've got to have redundancy in all your fittings. You know, ask yourself, will it fit? If you can't take a good measurement in here because it's awkward, you've got to make redundancies, have, you know, perhaps get an M&F branch as well, and get different adapters if you think it's going to be tricky. And it's like that with any job, it's not just pipe, it's like all plumbing. You don't quite know what's there because very often you can't see the pipe work, so you have to plan around that. Next thing will be is to get this foam off and make the wall good. But yes, firstly plan for your plan to go wrong. Make sure your pipe work's supported as much as you can. If it's LCC, if it's plastic soil, it shouldn't matter too much, but this stuff, if this dropped, you'd never get it up again. And yeah, and then on the day, just hope that you've got the right tools with you to get it done. And if you can, you know, beg, borrow and steal whatever you think you need and try and get it there before. I always get everything set up and ready the day before you do it, if you're not sure. If you do this sort of thing all day, every day, then you've already got all the tools in the van ready to go. But if you're like me, it's your first time, you know, you're an apprentice, you're not done a ton of this sort of work before. You know, you've seen it, you've got a rough idea, but you're not as familiar with it as somebody who's full-time, full-on all day, every day. Then it's good to do things in steps. Get things ready the day before, the night before, whatever, and then say, you know, it's in, it's done. Have a cool-off period. You know, don't fiddle with it or second-guess yourself. Once it's in. And come back the next day to check on it. Don't keep checking on it every couple of hours while you clear up, and that's poisonous. Because then you're tempted to fiddle with it and, you know, think, oh, it's not quite right. Oh, it's got to come out. None of that. You don't need it. You've got enough problems with your people around you and the customer second-guessing you. You don't need to start second-guessing yourself. And that's it. That's all I can say, really. Oh, and this. The other thing I was going to say is that we cut this up just fine with the grinder. So it can be done, and then you've also got the grinder blade to do the chamfer. And we'll have to cut another piece to go in here, which I'll show you in a future video, and I'll just do a quick video of how to work with soil with a grinder. It's not the cleanest way or the easiest way, and it's certainly quite messy, but you know, if it's what you've got to hand, then you use it, and it's certainly quicker than the way I've learnt with the wood saw and a file, chamfering it. You get sick of that after the first few cuts, and if you've got to do it all day, bloody hell, I hope you work out. Yeah, this expanding foam, see, it's quite sticky. See how it's stuck to the, you know, it's taking the wallpaper with it as it comes up. That's hopefully what it's done to the pipe. It's stuck into it. And this is a good way to fix stuff in. It's not just for when you've got knocked a big hole in the wall and you need to make it good quickly. You know, it actually has its uses. And this pink stuff is fireproof, although we had it, if you look in the video, I don't know if I left it in or not, but we had it where some of this, an ember got onto this and it just kept on smoking and burning really slowly. So how fireproof this is, I don't know, because it seems like it would store the flame for days on end, let it smoulder away. Which is good in one sense, because it won't erupt into flames, but it's bad in the other sense. You want it to not burn at all. You don't want a flame that you don't know about ticking over in the cavity. So yeah, that's that. And the next thing will be to make all this wall good and carry on with our waste pipe work. This is just in dry. This isn't solvent cemented in yet. This is just a rough demo of how I was going to do it. And I need to do something about these bits of wood here, I'm just thinking, whether I cut through it or whether I try and get a fitting to circumvent this. What I need is a 45 degree like this, but an M&F, but it's not made into it, just like this again. You ask everybody and they don't know, and it doesn't exist, can't be had. And but this time it looks like it really does not exist. So yeah, thank you for watching this series, and I'll put this video first, so if you watch this far, go ahead, see how it's done, and to try and get a bit more information, especially if you're not sure, and tune in for more stuff. We're going to have more video series as we work on this bathroom and as we do other stuff, especially with this new camera rig. It seems to be quite nice. Might put it on while I'm doing a few more odd bits and bobs. These pipe cutters are good. I'll do some more info about these. Those are Rothberger ones. I've had very good luck with them. Not had them long, mind. Yeah, site safety isn't the best here, but each to their own. But anyway, thank you for watching, and good luck.